Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am really excited about today's video. If you're anything like me, you love those brands like Restoration Harware, but not so much the prices. So I'm going to show you two different techniques for texture and painting that will give you that very old stone vase or vessel look. We're going to be doing wet sponge technique. We're going to be using sand and spackling. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. Comment down below any questions, comments you have. I reply to them all. And let's get to it. These are a couple of vases I got secondhand. They're only about $5 each. And I'm going to spray a primer on them. You don't necessarily have to, but it's nice to have that base coat underneath. And I'm going to be using Spackling and Roll-A-Tex, which is a sand. When applying this, you can kind of just do it randomly. It doesn't matter for this part, but having it thick enough matters for the second part we're going to do with that little tool there sitting on the table, that little flat metal thing. Which, by the way, you can get these tools in a clay set at the store, craft store, online, Amazon, any of that kind of thing. Or another option for that little flat disc is just using a putty knife, and I'll show you what we're going to be doing with that in a second. But here I'm just making sure that it's thick enough to do the next step. It doesn't really matter how you apply it because we're going to be changing it in a little bit. The spackling that I'm using, as you can see, is pink, and then it dries white. Because it was such a thick layer, though, I did have to wait extra time. Now that we've got it all on, we're taking the little disc and we're just rubbing it down, making little flat areas. And we're doing this horizontally. And you really don't need to be perfect about it. In fact, I would say don't be perfect about it, because some of the little dips and places that are going up and down are going to give it a better quality later, so we like that. And then here I'm putting the Roll-A-Tex on. It's just a box of sand basically, and trying to pat it on very, very gently. You don't want to ruin the kind of design you have underneath, so just be like super gentle with it. I'm going to be putting down a base color of paint, and this helps for two reasons. One is that we're trapping all the sand onto the vase, but also we need to pick a color that we're wanting to pop through. When we do the wet sponge technique, which I'm going to show you later, we're going to be kind of revealing a bit of the color that we have underneath. These are a few of the colors that we're going to use. We're also going to use black and white. I'm starting on the bottom here with black and the dark brown color. And then this is something we're going to be doing a lot. So we get the sponge, wring out the water, and then we're kind of melting the colors into all of the little dips. And as we go up, we're going to be doing dark to light. So on the base, it's going to be dark brown and black kind of mixed in patches with the wet sponge, which will kind of melt it into all of those dips. And you'll see here that I have the medium brown tones in the middle. So it goes like black, brown to medium brown to light brown. And then on the top, we're going to be mixing in some white. Sped it up here just for the sake of time. This video is getting a little bit lengthy at the end, so I finally am able to flip it over because I just couldn't get down in there when it wasn't flipped over. But here I've turned it back up again. And again, I'm putting some creamy light brown towards the top. And we've gone so black brown on the bottom, medium brown, light brown. And we're sponging it all the way up so it really kind of melts together. And then the lightest brown on the top here. And then I'm going to be putting in some white paint on the top, and then getting the wet sponge again, which we wring out. We don't want it too soppy, we just want it a little teeny bit, a little teeny bit wet. So after this step, you can leave it like this, but I want to give it some more depth and kind of authenticity. So I wring out the sponge really well on this. I don't want it wet almost at all, just a teeny bit, just enough to rub over the top little peaks there. And we're not rubbing the sponge everywhere. We're kind of doing this specifically just where we see the little peaks, buffing them off just a little bit, take some of the paint off. And that's why we needed that kind of white color underneath. And I'm speeding it up here again just for the sake of video length. And you'll see this peak here, it kind of like droops down a bit. It's definitely not perfect, but that's what I love about it. I think that's probably my favorite part of this vase, is where it has that kind of drooping down texture there. Now we're ready to switch over to the next vase, which has already been primed. When I'm applying this spackling, I'm doing it in a thick enough layer to cover up this coil structure that it has underneath. And I'm doing it completely randomly. I kind of want to give it a gravelly looking effect because we are trying to imitate stone vases, really old stone vases. So I like having it all different directions. And I'm going to do the same thing inside the rim as well. And just pat it down a touch. Any parts that are just way too gathered up and bulky. And this is what it's looking like towards the end. And we wait for this to dry. These vases, since it was a thicker layer, it took a couple days. Again, I'm putting down this kind of white base coat. Now we're ready for the painting part. We're going to be using a lot of similar colors, but in a different way. So we have dark brown, black, medium brown, light brown, and white, and I'm applying it completely randomly. It just depends on how dark or light you want the kind of recesses to be. When you do the wet sponge technique on this part, when the colors kind of melt down into all the grooves, those are going to be the dimension part of your project. And so you can have it as dark or light in those grooves as you want by applying more black, more dark brown. I'm wanting to do this randomly to kind of give it a more organic look. So I'm putting all the colors all over, just completely randomly. I'm wringing out the sponge again, not to press in the paint now, but to buff off some of the peaks, to kind of take off a little bit of the paint that's on the peaks. And I'm going to be doing this several times back and forth. Here and there, I'll be brushing on a little bit of paint with my paintbrush if I feel like too much dimension has gotten lost by sponging off, or if I want some areas to be darker again in the back. So I'll paint it on and then sponge off parts that I want to be lighter. Now this next part is important to give it more of an aged look and a lot more depth, and that is mixing some black and dark brown, and I'm kind of brushing it on the areas that are dipped, so where the handles meet, where it dips in the middle there, on the top rim I do it, and then down there at the base where it's the skinny kind of line around the base, I put some dark in there as well. And then I'm getting the sponge to kind of dab away a bit of it so it fades in better and it looks a little more natural. And here's a little reminder again of where we started. I really love how these turned out. It's a very old, organic feel. Really cool look for any room. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time.